The tagline to this article is literally, Bank of England governor urges policymakers to do more to share out the gains from global trade and technology. The first paragraph is, the governor of the Bank of England has issued a rallying cry to policymakers across advanced economies to tackle the causes of a growing sensation of isolation and detachment among people who feel left behind by globalization. What does this sound like?
That sounds like a compensatory method for a problem that already exists.
It sounds like he's talking about exactly the same types of policies that I was talking about.
You are, yes. And I'm saying those very policies are unacceptable to a certain portion of the population. And as a liberal, I am concerned with alleviating oppression. And so if we can just not introduce things that create oppression, that would be better than trying to find a band-aid for it later on down the road.
But if there's a net growth in the economy, why can't we just, if there's a net growth...
Slavery was a net growth of the economy, Steve. Okay?
What?
Slavery was a net growth of the fucking economy. That doesn't mean that, oh, we should just give the slaves some nice quarters then. No, Steve. If people are being oppressed by these things, then you don't do them.
Okay, but what if you found a way to free the slaves and continue growing the economy?
It would be better to not enslave them in the first place. This is my point. You're asking, like, post hoc. Like, yeah, but after we've oppressed you, why don't we try and do something about it?
I'm not saying after we oppress you.
You literally are.
Policy can be predictory. It can be before.
It's too late.
You know that
We're way past that point.
You can enact your policy before. And I'm not saying
yeah,
you
but
have
we're way
to
past that
over
point.
and then you unfuck them.
Yeah, but we're way past that point. These people have been fucked. But no, there of course there are occupations that not designed, but that are just culturally more male focused, and there are occupations that are culturally more female focused.
Okay, so let me go back and connect the dots from your statements. Tell me if you disagree with any of the things I've said, okay? So women are being represented more across many different fields today compared to what they were 20...
No. The word representative is entirely misleading, right? These women
don't...
there's a higher hang on. I think it's worth hammering this out, though, because these women are not representatives of other people. These women only represent themselves and their own individual life goals and career choices.
Sure, it might be, and there might be some fields, especially related to physical labor, where there will always be a great disparity.
Not just physical labor. I mean, if you look at like architecture and stuff like that, it's in many, and it's just more about what people are naturally inclined to do, and I think people should be enabled to follow their natural proclivities. I mean, one thing I find really unusual is that people in a liberal society think that we would see inequality of anything. That's the antithesis of what a liberal society should produce.
Okay, but you're strawmanning the opposing side. Nobody is talking about reaching 100% parity.
There are lots of people saying that. There are lots of people.
But there has been. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, but that doesn't stop people, because there are always a percentage of FBI agents that are women. It's a disincentive, I will grant you, but it doesn't stop anyone from doing anything.
Okay, it is a disincentive then. If you massively disincentivize certain groups of people, you are less likely to see them choose certain paths in life. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, we absolutely can agree on that.
Okay, then we have no argument. So the goal would be
actually the question is, what can we do in the service of this? Because I don't think coming along to someone else's culture and saying, okay, you have to change this culture so we can incentivize people who aren't part of this culture, I disagree with that.
I'm sorry, are you saying that women aren't part of our culture?
No.
Okay, then where did that argument come from? What did that mean, getting people from another culture to come and tell us?
No, not another culture. I'm talking about like subcultures. You get subcultures everywhere.
Okay, are women a subculture in the United States?
No, of course not.
Okay, I don't understand where this argument is coming from or going at all then.
Okay, for example, I'll use myself as an example, right? I'm not a nurse, and I didn't have any interest in becoming a nurse for a multitude of reasons, and one of the reasons was because of the way nursing is run. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. It works very well for the people involved, and I'm sure they're very happy with it, but it's not something I want to do. I mean, it's the same with, the reason I didn't become a Wall Street broker is because I don't like the way that the Wall Street culture is. And I am outside of that culture, and I look at that culture and think, that doesn't appeal to me at all. I don't like the hyper-competitive nature of it. I don't like the sleaziness, the sliminess that seems to ooze out of it. Not for me. I wouldn't suggest that some other third party comes into the Wall Street culture and says, right, you're not doing this in the way that Carl doesn't like, therefore you have to change so he feels incentivized to join you.
I don't think we're ever going to agree on this. You seem to think that every single agent in a society, even though you've admitted earlier that people can be disincentivized or incentivized to certain behaviors, you're giving me that every single person in society is this beacon of individual agency that is free from cultural influence.
No, not at all. No, this is me expressing how cultural influence influences me. No, I'm literally telling you, the culture of Wall Street repels me. That's a cultural influence on me. That means
no, that's not a cultural influence on you. That is you objectively evaluating that you wouldn't want to be a part of Wall Street. That's not a cultural influence on you.
But I'm looking at their culture and thinking, well, that doesn't appeal to me. Therefore, I'm not going to join.
But you are making the decision as an objective beacon of individual agency.
Yeah,
right?
Are you saying that women aren't objective beacons of individual agency?
You're not analyzing culture's impact on you. You're saying that you, as a rational, logical, individual agent, can decide that you don't want to be a part of something. That isn't saying that maybe the reason why you're deciding that is because you weren't raised in a very ultra-competitive culture, or maybe you didn't have ultra-competitive pushes, and you're like, these are analyses of culture on an individual, not, I have decided I don't want to be part of that, so I'm free of the influence of culture, right? Earlier, you admitted that it is possible to disincentivize people from something, right?
Of course, that disincentivizes me.
Okay, so therefore, on the flip side, it is also possible to incentivize people towards things.
Yes, I know.
Right?
Hang on. Yeah, okay. I agree with you what you're saying, but I don't think you understand what I'm trying to say. You don't have the authority to determine who should be incentivized in any way, shape, or form. It's not your responsibility. But listen. It's not your responsibility. It's not the government's responsibility. It is literally nobody's responsibility to try and incentivize other rational human beings to do things that they otherwise would choose not to do. But
sure,
that doesn't
but right
mean...
now there exists a very heavy culture that heavily incentivizes men towards certain roles, and the goal is just to make it so that both sides are incentivized just as much, not to disincentivize people towards things.
Yeah, but I've already said you're not allowed to incentivize people. You can remove disincentivizing factors.
But you already incentivize people.
You're not in control of what incentivizes people. You don't know.
It doesn't matter if you're in control of it or not. It happens.
Yeah, but it happens naturally. It happens homogeneously. Like
slavery happened naturally.
No,
that's not a good argument in favor of it.
No, it didn't. Slavery didn't happen naturally. It was a social construct.
Okay, and you don't think that do you think that being an architectural engineer is a natural thing that people choose in the wilderness?
I never said it was.
Constructs.
I never said it wasn't.
You're implying that slavery was a social construct, but none of the career choices that we make aren't social constructs? What was the point of saying that?
Why did you bring up slavery? What's it got to do with any of this?
Because you're making it sound like because you keep trying to be favorable and saying that, yeah, society can influence us, but then you keep jumping back into this, well, everything is natural. Everybody chooses things naturally. Everybody chooses
there are lots of things that influence us. There are lots and lots of things. You can't just say, okay, well, it's these two things. I mean, there are lots of other things that influence us. Negative and positive events in our lives influence us. But this is the point. This is the point. It's not all encompassing. It's not all deterministic like that. People may choose to do many different things for many different reasons, and I agree that the barriers preventing them should be removed, but that doesn't mean we then need to start pushing people. Just because there are no barriers there now, that doesn't mean we need to shove people in any direction, even if it's using really soft power, like cultural pressure, because that is just the same as keeping people out, just from the other direction.
That's what you said.
Well, let's be honest. Have you not seen all of the anti-white hatred going around at the moment?
You mean the people posting on Twitter, white genocide?
No. I'm talking about the people in the DNC saying we've got to stop white people from talking. I'm talking about all the affirmative action that excludes white people.
Lady that got up on stage and said
everyone applauded.
To listen to minority.
And everyone applauded. So it's.
Why aren't black people experiencing similar levels of poverty as white people then?
Well, because their families broke up to a higher degree for whatever reason.
Why?
I don't know.
The reason is really important. That's literally what we're talking about.
Listen. I agree with you that the reason is really important. So getting hung up on like the consequences is really, and then saying that it's racism that's causing this. Like, no, I'm sorry, it's crime rates that are causing this, and the crime rates are being directly influenced by the breakdown of the black family.
Right after Jim Crow ended, and you don't see any connection to the racially motivated redlining or gentrification or any of these policies in the United States to the destruction of black family. You don't see any connection.
Explain to me why redlining prevents people from getting married.
I don't know. Moving people in and out of communities, destroying communities, tearing apart communities,
yeah,
like these things all have...
Yeah, but is it preventing men and women from getting married?
It can, sure. If you're breaking up communities or ghettoizing people or forcing people into impoverished lifestyles, yeah, sure.
No, but how is that preventing anyone from getting married? I mean, like, there are not loads, but there are, believe it or not, black people who are in the United States are married, and black households who are married enjoy a similar level of income to white households.
So, I don't think you're arguing in good faith, dude. I
can't. Fuck off, man. No, fuck you. Don't sit here and tell me I'm not arguing in good faith. Listen. I'm giving you stats and figures, and you're demanding I give you the reasons that I'm not a scientist. I don't know.
You haven't given me a reason. You haven't given me a reason.
I know. I don't know the reason.
I don't know why.
But don't sit here. Yep, I don't know why, but I'm not going to say that these things aren't real just because I don't know why they're happening. For fuck's sake, man, come on.
Why these problems happen? You go, well, I don't know. I'd have to talk to the individuals. These aren't individual issues. These are issues facing an entire class of people. There aren't individual.
They are all individual issues.
Having trouble with marriage.
They are all individual issues.
Has trouble with this, and I'm asking why, and you have no answer for me.
No, I don't have an answer. Nobody does, and you're asking the wrong questions.
But people have given answers. No, these are absolutely crucial questions. Because for you to come in and just go, well, black people need to get married.
Listen,
it's entirely fucking retarded.
No, it's not. Absolutely not. Hang on. Right, okay, calm down. Right. Let's calm down a bit. But seriously, don't accuse me of arguing in bad faith. Listen, that's a dick thing to do. I didn't accuse you of arguing bad faith, even though what I think you're saying is ridiculous. Because what you want to do, listen, right? What you're trying to do is say, right, more black people are in jail, therefore this must be racism. Even though we know that, like, for white people, if white people are raised in single-parent households, they have a much higher occurrence of, causing crimes. Therefore, they are much more likely to be found in jail. Therefore, what, are the British court systems racist because most of the people are poor whites in jail? No. It's a consequence of poverty, okay? But because this is happening to black people, you go, well, must be racism. No. That's just literally an assumption that you're not proving. I mean, name me a black person who's currently in jail who shouldn't be in jail because they didn't commit a crime, and yet the court just stiffed them because they were racist. Name them.
So the question is, why do black people commit more crime? These are the questions.
And the answer is because they come overwhelmingly from single-parent households.
Okay, why do they come from single-parent
Because their parents don't get married. And the answer to why their parents don't get married is something you'll have to ask the fucking parents, isn't it? I don't know why their parents don't get married.
That way. We can't go and survey every single individual and try to remedy their problems
on
an individual level. This is type of policy in the history of all of mankind has been enacted.
I appreciate that, right? I appreciate that we cannot ask every single one of them, but we can ask a representative sample of them, can we not?
This sounds like stats.
That's fine.
So a representative sample would probably point towards the fact that black people were disproportionately impacted by certain types of laws.
And now you have to explain how that prevents them from getting married. I mean, when these laws were in place, black people had a remarkably high marriage rate. So the laws themselves... Now listen. The laws themselves were not preventing black people from getting married. When these laws were repealed, and it wasn't even... Let me just get the numbers up just so I can chart exactly the date that this happened. So like the Civil Rights Act in 1964 is when they got repealed, right? So and I think it was the late 70s. I'll find it later. Actually, fuck it, I can't be asked to look for it. It was the late 70s when the black family started breaking down. I don't think, and look, correlation does not imply causation. Just because these things happened at a similar time doesn't mean they're directly related. There could be something else going on that we're not accounting for. Okay? But ultimately, every decision to get married is an individual interaction between two people. We need to survey a representative sample of people who are like, who were basically in their late teens, early 20s and the 70s and ask them, why didn't you get married? And maybe it was something to do with the culture or the zeitgeist of the time, being a bunch of hippies or something. I don't know. It could be anything. But the point is, I'm not saying it's because they're black. I'm saying it's because they have been through a certain set of life circumstances, and this is predictable. We see it in not just black communities, but white ones as well. I'm sure that, like in Romania, you see one with gypsy communities and things like this. It's not a racial thing. It's just something that happens when people go through these experiences.
I don't know. What do you mean, like in terms of government policy, or
no? Not in terms of... Unless you think there's a... I mean, maybe there should be government policies that incentivize black people to get married. Do you think so?
It's possible, yeah. I mean, you could talk about the penal system. You could talk about the targeting of black people for things like drug crimes and whatnot over white people.
Yeah, but you're looking at the consequences again. I'm trying. I'm actually way before anyone.
I'm not looking at the consequences.
Yeah, you are, because this is the consequence of these things.
If you've got a legal system that disproportionately locks up black men, do you think that people that go to jail are less likely to get married?
Yeah, but why doesn't it disproportionately lock up Chinese men?
Because it doesn't target Chinese men. Because
Why not?
laws like stop and frisk or the policing of certain ghettos doesn't
Yeah, but
target
why
Chinese
not?
people. It targets black people.
Yeah,
I don't
but-
know.
Well, I
as a
do.
superintendent,
I know
as a-
why.
Okay, why?
There are much higher rates of crime in these communities.
Why is it that when you survey people across the United States, you find out that white people use marijuana far more than black people, but black people go to jail way more for it?
Because these communities are more heavily policed.
Okay, so there's the problem.
Yeah, but these communities also commit a disproportionate amount of crime.
But we just said that in terms of marijuana.
Yeah, but that's one crime, and a minor one at that. In terms of, say, violent crime, these communities are colossally disrepresented, and this is the problem, right? There are people who grow up in unstable families and they become unstable people, and then they commit a disproportionate amount of crime, and then a larger proportion of them go to jail because they've committed crimes. So let's nip it in the bud before it gets to the jail, and let's say, right, okay, so we know that it's single parent families that cause this. This is something that statistically, as far as I can tell, shown. So we should be disincentivizing single parent families, should we not? Honestly, this is just the consequence of increasing the labor pool, is that the wages go down.
Okay, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Everything is a two-way street. There's a lot of different
It is a
factors that
bad
come
thing
together here.
for the people who need that labor.
Okay, but the point is to make it so that they can train into other types of jobs so that they don't have to compete with the worst jobs in our civilization.
Well,
We've already made that
unfortunately,
decision
we're
that
not
we
at
don't
that
want to do
point.
that with manufacturing. That's why we let Chinese people manufacture shit for us, right? Nobody's making the argument
No,
that
we do that
should,
because
you
it's
know,
cheaper.
What?
The fact that corporations are... it sounds like you're pro-Donald Trump, because everything you're arguing for is going to end up with you with Donald Trump in charge.
I don't think
This
you
is...
have any idea what any of Donald Trump's policies are.
Well, I
Sorry,
think
we're
I
saying
actually
we don't
do,
know.
okay? And so far, you haven't demonstrated a solid understanding
Okay,
of any of
two
this.
things.
So
Donald
let's not
Trump
start
talked
judging our
about-
expertise here, because seriously, you are arguing for... I mean, Donald Trump is literally threatening tariffs for companies who move outside the country.
Tariffs are the exact opposite of what I'm talking about, dog. When I talk about free
I
trade and I talk
know.
about open borders
I
and immigration,
know.
I'm not talking about anything Donald Trump is talking about. Donald Trump is talking about pulling out of every single massive trade agreement we've ever
I
been
know,
in,
but
including
what
the
you'll end
TPP and
up
NAFTA,
with
and
is Donald
also
Trump.
talked about increasing tariffs on every single country. This
Yes.
is the exact opposite of what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
I know,
There's no
I know,
loophole
I
between
know,
Donald
I
Trump and
know.
his position.
But you don't seem to understand that what you're arguing for ends up with Donald Trump.
No, it absolutely doesn't. It, couldn't be
It does,
further
and the
apart from one
evidence
another.
is the fact that Donald Trump is your president. He is a protectionist because the globalist
You're
sort of
arguing for
attitude...
protectionism, dude.
No,
When you say I don't want any more labor coming into my country because I need to protect our workers from foreign influence or from foreign
No,
competition, that is a
protectionism is
policy.
after the fact. I mean, you could call this preventism if you want. I am preventing the need. No, it's not. Listen, I am preventing. I am arguing for preventing to getting to the point where protectionism is even needed. You're arguing for protectionism of the poor people. Like, right, let all these people in, increase minimum wage, let people, outsource their jobs to any old country. Don't worry about tariffs. I mean, what you're arguing for ends with Donald Trump.
Field of Donald Trump, okay?
Yes,
I am
but...
in favor of globalized policies that
Okay.
take advantage of the comparative advantages between nations. I am in favor of increasing the supply of labor
Right.
to give lower cost of manufacturing and other types of goods to companies in the United States, right? This is the exact opposite of protectionist policies, okay?
Okay,
My economic
listen, okay.
policies and my ideas on them are the exact opposite of Donald
Okay.
Trump. They do not wind up in the same place
Okay.
anywhere near one another, okay?
They do, because what you are trying to implement is, as you said, directly negative for a percentage of your population. And the bigger the percentage of that population that it becomes negative for, the more people who are oppressed by this, the more they will vote for someone who won't do this, who will operate in their interests. And this
Okay,
is
so
how
you're
you
saying-
end with Donald Trump.
So you're saying that my policy is just like Donald Trump's because it's the opposite of Donald Trump.
It may as well
Is
be
that what
Donald
you're
Trump's because that's the inevitable conclusion. Just because you don't understand why you end up with Donald Trump, because you end up exploiting a large segment of your population, isn't my problem. That's your problem. Anyone listening to this will be able to explain to you that, look, if you oppress someone for long enough And with an obvious enough reason and motive and means, they will take action against it, which is why the Rust Belt flipped to Trump, which is why Trump is now your president. These people have problems from your ideal vision of a globalized economy.
But they don't.
They do.
These people have problems because these people were the largest losers of these types of policies.
Exactly!
And nobody did.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Half of my argument, dog?
Yeah,
Half my argument is finding ways to redistribute winnings from the winningest most people to the people that have been most impacted.
Yes.
You yourself said that the majority of these winnings go to the top percent.
They do.
Inequality and disparity in the United States have grown at unprecedented levels.
That's
I
true.
am over here arguing in favor of finding ways to redistribute winnings from the people that are taking the most advantage of these things and to the people that are being most hurt by it.
Okay.
Do you understand how that position is not a
Yes.
position that is
No,
being
listen,
advocated
listen,
for, and
listen.
that's why the people in like West Virginia and Ohio and Michigan have been left behind the most in these manufacturing
Look, I'm not saying.
So don't say that
listen.
my policy has wound people up in these areas. I am all for redistributing wealth from some of the people taking advantages of these things. The difference between you and me is that you want to go completely in the opposite direction, like a child, because you see that some bad things have resulted from these types of policies. I would rather continue to capitalize on the benefits of free trade while distributing the winnings from the winners to the losers, so that we can all enjoy the benefits of a growing economy together.
Okay, but that's not how a liberal society
works. In
works.
the United States, have access to cell phones, internet, computer, all of these standards of living increases have come at the benefits of globalization. You want to throw all of that out the window so that what? Poor people don't go to college.
I think. Listen, hang on. Right? I don't think that the iPhone is invented because of globalization. I don't think.
But
right,
how
well,
much do you think
okay.
it cost if we manufacture that in America?
It doesn't matter. I don't care. All right, I don't care.
Then you're
listen.
then I don't
No.
If you
Listen.
don't care
No.
about politics,
No.
we're having a
Wait.
conversation of reality, dude.
We are. Listen. Right. You are arguing for something that is directly negatively impacting a segment of the population, and then to compensate for this, you want the government to redistribute vast amounts of wealth, right? Now, why don't we just not have it that the government has to do this?
Because I already told you, because there are massive benefits to be had from immigration, and I want to continue to.
And there are also massive problems, and we haven't even gone into the social problems, right? We're just talking about the economic problems, right? There are also massive problems from doing what you're doing, and you've said it's exploitative to one group for the expense of the rest. Well, that's not acceptable. Regardless of what your band-aid solutions are,
I would rather live in a country where everybody gets to benefit off of a certain policy.
Yeah, but you literally say that some people don't benefit
from it, rather than fuck everybody over with higher costs of goods because you want to protect some.
Higher costs of goods is not fucking people over. Just because people have to pay more for an iPhone, that doesn't mean their lives have been ruined. Good God, that is the most bourgeois thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's not bourgeois, it's the opposite.
Fucking
You're
is.
arguing in favor of the bourgeois. You're saying, fuck
No,
the
I'm
poor
not.
person. Who cares if they can afford an iPhone? I can afford one. Fuck them. I make a living making YouTube videos. I don't give a fuck if a poor person can afford a computer or an iPhone.
Are you
That's exactly what you're
insane?
saying.
That is
I'm in favor of the
absolutely
bourgeois.
not what I'm saying. Right? These people, they have problems paying their rent.
Okay, and even the poorest people, do you agree or disagree that the poorest people in the United States have unprecedented access to technology today that they've never had?
Well, it depends on their wealth, doesn't it? If they could have all of there could be shops filled with technology, but if they can't even feed themselves, then no, they have no access to it.
This isn't happening in the United States, where these swaths of people that can't feed
Really?
themselves. Maybe it happens in the United Kingdom, but it doesn't happen in the United States.
Okay, not feed themselves then, but have disposable income is not something that the lower classes have a great deal of.
Okay, but they don't have to have a massive amount of disposable income to afford these goods because of the benefits of free trade, because of the benefits of a lower cost of labor. Like, they can afford these products without making millions and millions of dollars.
Okay.
An iPhone that might cost $3,000 if we protected our manufacturing, industry, isn't going to be something that a poor person can magically afford.
Yes, that's right. It becomes a luxury good. It becomes a luxury good. That's right. These people might have to only buy one iPhone a year.
Why are you talking about decreasing the standards of living for all?
This is not decreasing the standards of living, okay? Not having an iPhone is not decreasing their standard of living.
I don't.
And ultimately, they will still have iPhones because they will have jobs which they can earn good money in. They will earn more, therefore the price of goods going up is not that much of an issue. However, them earning less...
Them not having iPhones won't decrease their standard of living. That is literally an...
Are you honestly telling me that someone's standard of living is contingent on whether they have an iPhone or not?
Because you have no idea what it's like to exist without this. Because
are you fucking kidding me? I am old enough to know not what it's like. No, stop, Destiny, stop right there, my friend. Stop, calm your little tit train here, because you are totally flat wrong. I existed before the fucking iPhone, you dummy. Just because you're too young to remember what it's like before it, I'm not. It's not a great detriment to someone's life to not have a fucking iPhone. Jesus fucking Christ, man, calm down.
Is there access to global markets? You're literally telling me.
But I'm not arguing against international trade, Steve. I'm not arguing against international trade. I think they should be able to sell their goods in international markets. I think it's a great thing. What I don't think is this kind of predatory capitalism that ends up buying up large portions of their countries and impoverishing the people who are trying to make a living and making them into virtual serfs for these companies to the point where they end up having to put anti-suicide netting around their buildings so people don't kill themselves. But you don't care because it doesn't affect you. Because your products are getting more expensive. Oh god, it's okay if these people are enslaved by these corporations because you don't have to pay very much for an iPhone. That's your fucking argument, man.
So, and this is like so ironic because so you're telling me like you're taking the extreme socialist communist like point of view, like the worker should be in charge of everything.
This is not
inflate wages as much as possible, and capitalism is evil, and all of these capitalists.
This is not a communist argument, okay? This is not a communist. This is a liberal argument. It's not a communist argument. If I was a communist, I would be arguing against the private ownership of these corporations.
Well, earlier you just said you didn't care if business owners went out of business. Fuck.
No, I don't. But I don't want the government to own them.
You don't care if they go out of business.
No, but that's a part of the free market.
More like pretty close to that direction.
No, that's nonsense. There's nothing like it.
Okay, that's what it sounds. When somebody tells me I don't give a fuck if business owners go out of business as long as the lower class gets higher wages, that sounds to me like somebody leaning towards communism.
Okay, but you're completely wrong.
Earlier, funny enough.
And honestly, you're completely wrong. No, I said that I'm happy to agree that you're not a communist, right? But no, it's certainly not a communist argument to argue for a free market where businesses rise and fall on the merits. Yeah, I am.
You're not talking about a free market. You're talking about protectionism. That's the opposite of a free market. To clarify.
Okay. Within a country, okay. I don't think the government should be buying and selling the people's businesses. It's okay for a business to fail if it fails. If for some reason that business model doesn't work, then in a sort of Darwinian way, it's okay for it to fail. And if one works, then it's okay for it to work and succeed and grow and prosper. Right? That's all fine. None of these are communist arguments. A communist wouldn't argue for any of this.